What up, guys? We're back again for another episode. We're making some good progress here. I said before I started properly, what's the word? Promoting this or trying to promote this. I was going to make sure that I could get into a cadence of recording this podcast weekly. I've still not made it to my changed work hours. However, I will say my new work hours are going to be very, very cool. So I'm looking forward to that. I've got another full week of let's have a look. Yeah, another full week of my current hours before my hours change, and then I go into my new hours, and I am going to have much more time to do stuff like this. So that is fantastic. I can't wait. So I've got a couple things to watch out about today. I've got my coffee. I'm channeling my inner Kelsey, Dean Buck, with my coffee. Let's do a wee slurp in honor of him. We've got that. It is currently 6:15 p.m. on Saturday. My aim is to do these on a Friday. However, I had a busy Friday, so you will forgive me for being an hour late. None of you that listen. We're going to talk about what I've been playing quickly. Really don't think much has changed in that regard since we spoke last time, and then I'm going to talk about Microsoft's big announcement and some concerns I have despite what is being said by Microsoft explicitly. So let's just dive into it, I suppose. There's no reason to hang around. So I've been playing a couple of games. I've literally about 10 minutes ago just completed Dredge, which was it was a weirdly compelling game. It was fun. It starts off as this sort of chilled out, relaxing fishing game where you go around picking stuff up, fish up in different items, and then it sort of expands its wings a little bit and becomes something slightly different, becomes a bit more of a horror. What's that horror writer? For God's sakes, my mind is going completely blank. Let me have a look. Famous horror writers. H.P. Lovecraft. Yeah, sort of Lovecraftian in its design and art as things go on. It's never becomes a sort of Twitch-based games, but it's a very check-off the list game, which I've quite enjoyed, actually. I did say, I think, on the last podcast that I've been looking for a game to sort of tide me over before I dive into the next big game. And you know what? I'm actually kind of thinking about Metal Gear Solid 5. I've got Kingdom Come Deliverance, and I really want to get to that. And then we've got Death Stranding 2 coming out. I want to get to Outer Worlds. Outer Wilds is another game I want to play. It's maybe not a big long one, but that's a sort of one. But yeah, I've sort of had my week or two messing about after finishing a big game, and I'm sort of ready to dive in. Another game it's on my list as well. But it's funny. Final Fantasy 16 is a game that when it came out, I really, really wanted to play it, and I played the demo and thought this is great. See, the more time I've got away from it, if they had released that on maybe they don't care because it seems like sales on Xbox haven't actually gone that well. But if they had released that on Xbox day and date, I may have gone for it. Although I never loaded up my PlayStation to get it. So who knows if I would have done that. So yeah, I'm ready to kick off my next big long game, but I'm not quite sure what that is. I think after I've recorded this podcast, I'm going to upload this, and then I'm going to upload the next A Winner Is You YouTube video to YouTube, obviously. And then I'm going to go and sit down and decide what my next big game is going to be. Do I sort of puddle about and wait for Death Stranding 2? Because I'm kind of in the mood for that, but I have just finished Death Stranding 1. Or do I sort of give that some room to breathe and allow me to be more in the mood for it when it comes around? Because I'm also looking for excuses to jump onto my PlayStation because I keep sticking to my Xbox. Shoot me. I like it. It's what I like. But I do have a PlayStation 5. And I would like to get more use out of it because I always turn it on and use it and think, oh, this is a cool machine. I wish I had more reason to play it. However, there's just so many games coming out, even when games that I would traditionally like might make me migrate over to the PlayStation, like Final Fantasy 16 or even Death Stranding 2. I find myself just finding stuff to play on Xbox and being quite happy there. But anyway, yeah, so Dredge is cool. It's quite simple. It's not very challenging. It is, like I say, like it's just a tick box game. I also, very briefly, and maybe this is a game I need to dig into a bit more tonight, briefly dipped into a game of Kelsey's Kelsey of First Aid Spray fame. Oh my god, 2 carats, but I don't think he's done that in a while. Starfield Sandwich, Gears Intel, which I co-host with him, and he also makes appearances from time to time on the Winners U podcast. I'm sure he does other stuff as well, but anyway, I was chatting to him during the Xbox showcase, and he recommended, because is it Planet of Lana got announced on that showcase, and he said that World of Lana was one of his favorite games of whatever year it came out. And I had a look on Steam, and it was Steam Deck compatible, and it was cheap. It was like a $5, so I was like, oh, I'm just going to get it and try it. So I started playing that, and that is, I've only, like I said, dabbled in it so far, maybe played 45 minutes of it. And I will come back to it because I like what I've played so far. I will say the controls feel quite stiff, but I get the feeling that that's perhaps deliberate. I don't know how much to say about this game, because even like sort of 10, 15 minutes in, it becomes a game that I wasn't aware that it was. So if you want to know nothing about this game, maybe turn off for a minute or so. But it becomes this, it starts off and seems to be this, what I was expecting is a sort of journey of self-discovery, puzzle game. Maybe someone's friend goes missing, and then you just go on a sort of fantasy puzzle romp across the world that you're inhabiting. But very quickly it becomes some sort of sci-fi thing with quite a lot of danger in it. And I just like, there's aliens come, and it's like this idyllic land that is certainly like, I don't know, like Iron Age-ish looks. All the houses are made of wood and stilts and tied together. There's no guns that I'm aware of. And it just becomes this almost like futuristic thing mixed with historical stuff that I just wasn't ready for that. But I've enjoyed what I've played of it. It's a cool puzzle game. It's a 2D one, sort of like Limbo-like, I guess. So far, but it's a bit more obviously a bit more bright and colorful, a bit more artistically diverse, and it's a cool game. I don't really have much more to say about it. And another game that I actually want to get into, I've got it on my PC for years back. This one might actually be worth going on the PlayStation, is Pacific Drive. That's another one that I've got going on my team, on my to-do list. Weird West as well is another one. And what do we call it? My brain is going, maybe don't record podcasts at night, David, because your brain doesn't work. Silent Hill 2 is a game I still need to get into, so maybe I've got that on my PC. Maybe that's the time to jump back into that. Anyway, we've moved on from what I don't know that I'm going to play. Have I been playing anything else? Firebreak, I've been dabbled in that so far. I do like what I've played. So I like what I've played. The levels and stuff are fun and engaging. I think if you could find some friends to play with, it would be a good laugh and a good way to spend a couple evenings. I'm not sure how much legs the game has. I feel like once you've done the levels through a couple times, even just once or twice, you've seen what the levels have to offer. And I would be interested in what the roadmap from the developers is for this game, because like I say, it's a great idea. It's a cool game. I even respect the fact that they don't have the sort of play me all the time hooks that these live service games tend to have. But I guess the problem and drawback of that is that because it doesn't have these hooks, I've sort of struggling to come back. I often lament that I absolutely love the Left 4 Dead games, and periodically just have a great time playing through them with friends. And I do generally think back quite fondly about my time in playing those games. However, I do also wonder how well that game would work in 2025, given the sort of direction that the industry's going in terms of feedback loops and stuff like that, because it just doesn't have it. There's no leveling up. You just play through the levels until you're bored and satisfied. And I kind of wonder that this might fall into the same category. I respect what it's doing. I like what it's doing. I just don't see how it maintains a decent fan base and crowd into the future. Obviously, the fact that it's a Remedy game and it's in this Remedy extended universe might help to a degree. However, I'm already, as someone who is utterly obsessed with Remedy as a developer. I'm finding I'm already sort of hitting my limit with the game. I need to find some friends to play with it for a couple of times, see if that can breathe new life into it. Yeah, but sort of solo play, it suffers from that like team-based thing where you're at the mercy of the RNG gods about what quality of teammate you get. Very often I've had teammates spawning in and just running off on their own, getting downed, and then it's like, well, this is a waste, and then people leave, or they run off in the wrong direction and don't do the mission, or they clearly are. And again, like, I don't want to be one of those guys, but they're clearly new to the game, and it can be a bit of a frustrating experience when you're trying to get into a cadence and kick on, and there's someone like pushing the wrong buttons and tripping over stuff and things like that. So it's just a thing that these games struggle with. And another game that I've dabbled in that I'm a massive fan of and I'm really desperate to play with people is Rematch. That's the people that made Sifu. It's their new game. It's on Game Pass and it's also on PlayStation Plus if you have either of those. So you've really no excuse not to give this game a go. And the sort of elevator pitch with this is FIFA a few years ago brought out this mode where you were one player and you would play that one player's role in the pitch. This game does it, but 5-a-side, and it also does it in a sort of snappier, more engaging way. Another good way to think about this game. What's that car game where you run around? It's like football but cars. It's a bit like that, but you're a footballer, and it's just like 5-a-sides or 3-a-sides, or you can even do 4-a-sides, which is what I've been doing. You can, if you want to sort of practice your skills, 3-a-sides pretty good. If you want to try and practice your positioning, 4-a-sides quite good. And if you want to do like the full blown thing, 5-a-side. And then it's like running keepers as well, which if you've played soccer or football as a kid, you'll be well aware of. And yeah, that is a game that I feel like I've only scratched the surface of, but I just really, really need to dig into it deeper because it's awesome, man. It is so good. But yeah, that's generally what I've been playing. Still playing Balatro. I wrote myself a link here. I'm looking at my notes and it's not saved for some reason. So what I'm about to do here. So Xbox has announced a next-gen deal with AMD, a next-gen AMD deal, and says the future won't be tied to a single store, which is kind of what I want to talk about in this episode. So Microsoft's announced a multi-year agreement with AMD to create chips for its future devices, which says it will not be tied to a single store device. I'm interested to see how this manifests, because if they're going to allow things like Steam onto their marketplace, they're going to have to become incredibly aggressive with their store, their Microsoft store, in a way that they currently are not, because things are often always cheaper on Steam. And if they are going to willingly open themselves up to this type of competition, they are going to have to become more aggressive on their storefront to try and keep people, because at some point, even myself as an Xbox gamer, I'll probably end up buying an Xbox but playing Steam games on it. And I'm trying to think, like, obviously I think at this point the two things that Microsoft want is they want people using Windows and they want people buying their games because they're probably predominantly a publisher now over a hardware manufacturer. Which again makes sense. I'm going to have to open my window, it's too hot. So sorry if it makes a noise. Which again makes sense because Microsoft are a software company. They're not a hardware company, or traditionally haven't been a hardware company. So yeah, they want people using Windows. I'm trying to think of the reason that might be in their interest if people are using Windows in a game console, but not necessarily engaging with their storefront. I'm not sure what they get from that. So interested to see how that grows and changes. So yeah, I think it's interesting what they're saying so far. I think it's too early to tell, and we're going to have to just sit and wait and see what happens with this moving forward, because I don't think it's clear yet. The other part of this I want to say is I was chatting to Alex about this, and Alex made a great point, because in my head I was like, oh well, Microsoft is done with the hardware business now, but that's not what they've said here. They're talking about the next Xbox and stuff like that, and They've done a deal with AMD, which suggests that they're going to be putting chips into some sort of hardware machine. So they aren't done doing their own hardware yet. But I suspect by the time the next generation rolls around and we get towards the end of the next generation, we'll be seeing Xboxes maybe manufactured and released by Xbox, but we'll also see Xboxes or these Microsoft games machines, whatever they become called, being released by other hardware manufacturers. Because if they, like a bit like ROG, with their Xbox ROG Alloy, is it Ally, is it called? Yeah. If they've already done, here's one example of an Xbox in quotation marks coming out that's not made by Xbox. It's just the Windows. It's the Windows OS. I think it makes logical sense to then sort of make the leap to see people making console boxes that aren't made by Xbox, which in some ways is going to be interesting. It'll be interesting because it will allow people to explore a sort of the range of power devices that will allow people to buy a console to suit their budget. Microsoft have obviously already dabbled in that so far with the Series S and then the X. So if you want to have a cheaper Xbox experience, you can still play all the same games, but perhaps on a like less good graphics or less high quality performance, but you can still get a decent Xbox experience with that S. And I think with the release of the Switch 2, the existence of the S and the Xbox ROG Ally coming out, it means that these machines aren't going to feel underpowered, because we still have to be creating games that are going to run in these machines. And as Xbox, I guess, continually edge towards their console box being a sort of variation of some sort of closed box, closed system PC, it allows people the opportunity to sort of get an Xbox that's going to fit their budget, which I think can only be a good thing. There will be the absolute elite end models for people. And it means, I wonder to an extent, if the sort of idea of an Xbox generation might go the way of the Dodo as well. And it just like, if you feel you've got some money and you're interested in upgrading to a more powerful machine, chances are within a couple of years, even if you get the best machine, there will be a better one that comes along. And it's sort of up to the consumer when they want to move on. And I think that is only positive. They have the thing that sort of is connected to this, but different, that I also wanted to discuss, is they've sort of committed to backwards compatibility. And I want to conjoin this with another thing. I think about a year ago, I was driving back from the gym and I was listening to a podcast. And they had a guy on who was from the backwards compatibility team at Microsoft. And he was talking about how, as a team, they've sort of, on console, they've sort of hit the limits of what they can realistically do. They're now coming up against contracts and agreements and legal stuff that's preventing them from bringing any more games over to console. And it becomes too difficult to negotiate these things. So this sort of doubling down on backwards compatibility and bringing games like Fable and stuff, to me that sounds more of a PC discussion rather than a console discussion, because games like Fable, which I think is one of the ones that they showed or spoke about directly, that one isn't on PC as far as I'm aware. So I want to know what this means, and then sort of look into the future and see what they're doing. And obviously, like changing Windows and opening up the store to different things, and obviously moving towards a Microsoft OS that Xbox is going to be running on. I wonder how that manifests and what that means for my Xbox library. One of the things that I'm sort of nonplussed when Xbox games started to go over PlayStation. I think games should be available to everyone, and it's great. And actually, having games tied to consoles is pretty anti-consumer. And it's great that if people want to play these games on a PlayStation or just want to have a PlayStation, they can still play the games on a PlayStation that are coming out on Xbox. And I think it's silly that there are PlayStation games that I have to go onto my PlayStation to play, and can't just get them on Xbox. So that's good. What I worry about is, as they continue, I want something provision, which seems, I feel pretty confident these days that there's going to be some sort of Xbox provision. I don't know how that's going to look, but I think there will be something that will mean I can continue to play Xboxes, because as much as I like my PlayStation, I am an Xbox fanboy at heart. When it comes to contracts and things like that, where I am concerned, at some point they have the PC Microsoft/Xbox library, and they have the console Microsoft/Xbox library. And these are two different things, two different ecosystems. You buy one game on one and you don't always get the game on the other. And at some point, if they continue down this road, they're going to have to find a way to join these libraries together. My concern is that if it's separated as it is now, why is it separated as it is now? Are there contracts and agreements in place that prevent these things from being joined together in a way that you would hope that should be, and it would be cohesive? So what's going to happen to my Xbox library? Is there going to come a point where my library gets siloed off and it's like, oh, load up the Xbox Legacy app if you want access to your old library games, but the main library is now the PC one? Or is there going to be some way that they can just roll it all into one, which I hope is what they do? Because that's another thing, is when this Xbox ROG Ally comes out, it's going to be games that are on the PC store, not the games that are on the console store. So it'll be great if you've got Game Pass, because if that's where you play most of your games, you'll have access to that library anyway, and they're mostly the same. I think there are slight differences, but for the most part, they're the same, and you should be able to pick up where you left off. But I won't be able to load up all my Xbox games on this ROG Ally, which I want to see them do something with that. So yeah, I've got a concern about this overhaul in classic games and what they're going to do with it. Will they break it out into its own thing where you have like classic Xbox, Xbox 360, and these are all different stores? And then that means that there will be different stores on the Xbox marketplace, technically. I don't know what it means. But yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot happening. And that's kind of my 2 cents on it. I'm trying not to be overly critical, because I think there are things to be concerned about. There's also things to be quite excited about with this. And I don't want to, I mean, if you listen to the Winners U podcast, you'll be quite aware that I'm quite on edge about this and have been for a while. I'm trying to calm down a bit, because there's no evidence yet to suggest that I'm going to lose all these games or access to these games and be forced to start my library again in a different ecosystem. Because if they force me to do that, it will not be on the Xbox ecosystem. It'll be moving to PlayStation, I think. Yeah, I'm just very, very worried about this game. I mean, it sounds dramatic, but I've had an Xbox Live account since Xbox Live became a thing, and I've bought most of my games, apart from a sort of few-year foray with the PS4. I've always bought my games primarily in the Xbox ecosystem, so I've got tens of realistically, genuinely, got tens of thousands of pounds of games in that library, and I just don't want to lose it. I want to be able to keep building it over the course of my life, and then, I don't know, I can do the one after I die. But yeah, that's it, I guess. I would love to know what you guys think about this. It's fairly short today, which I guess is lucky for you. Is this something that you're concerned about? Do you care about it? Is it interesting? But yeah, I guess that's enough for me. As I said last week, I'm hoping this, and this week, I'm hoping this will settle into a proper cadence come early July, so I might be all over the place until then. But I want to get this up and running into somewhat of a swing of things before I started this podcast in earnest. My aim is that I want to create some gaming discourse that I feel like I'm missing out from my life, so please message me on Blue Sky at SuperSmillie. I can't imagine I'm new to any of you, but if I am, I'm also co-host of the Winners U podcast, which is sort of mixed between deep dives on specific games and theme discussions. I'm also a member of the team on the Gears Intel podcast, so please go over there and check out that if you're interested in hearing some aging, youngish dudes speak about their passion about all things Gears of War. I love doing that podcast, so please give them a bump. Anyway, yes, if you're listening to this on YouTube, please go subscribe to me on your podcast feed of choice. If you're listening to me on your podcast feed of choice, please go over to YouTube and search for Stickflickers, and you'll find me there. Please subscribe, rate, and follow on socials, etc. Cheers, lads.